Hey guys, welcome back to Steel City Sports. So today I'm going to be doing my predictions for the NFC playoff teams. And if you can't already tell, my voice is kind of messed up. I've been feeling a little under the weather, sore throat, stuffed nose. So apologize if my voice sounds weird, if I'm coughing throughout this, that's why. But I wanted to get this video out before the season started. My NFC playoff teams. I put out my AFC playoff teams a couple days ago, so if you haven't seen that, go check that out. But let's get right into the NFC playoff teams. Starting off with the NFC North, you could argue this is the best division in football right now. They just produced 3 playoff teams last year with the Vikings, the Lions, and the Packers. Detroit winning 15 games last year. Minnesota won 14, and the Packers won 11. So this is a highly contested division with great coaching staffs, great rosters, great players all over the place. So I think you could definitely make the case for several teams in this division. However, I'm going to go with the Green Bay Packers. And for me, the Micah Parsons trade is what puts the Packers over the edge in this division. You look back to last year, really over the past couple of years, I feel like the Packers, they've been good rosters, but they've really been lacking the star players at the key positions, most notably receiver and pass rusher. And this offseason, they look to address those things. What did they do in the draft? First round, Matthew Golden from Texas. He could be a monster. I think he has all the tools to be a really good NFL player, particularly in this offense. And they went out and got Micah Parsons, who's a top 5 pass rusher in the NFL right now. Green Bay basically looked at their team and they're like, we're a piece away. We can get Micah Parsons. And I think their GM even said, when is a player like Micah Parsons ever available? When is he just ever on the open market? Really never. You very rarely see that since I've been watching football. The only really comparison I can make to that kind of trade is the Khalil Mack trade. When Khalil Mack was traded to the Bears, in the middle of his prime, and he was instantly given a shit ton of money by the Bears. Similar situation here with the Packers where they view themselves as a piece away. They go out there, make a blockbuster trade. And like I said, for me, the Micah Parsons move is the thing that puts them over the edge in this division. It's a very well-rounded roster, a team that has always been, the last 2 years in the Jordan Love era, I've looked at as a good, not great team. But Parsons and Golden really fill 2 big holes, I think, on this team, making it one of the most well-rounded teams in the league. You got a good O-line. Jordan Love, we know he can be hit or miss at times, but when he's on, he plays at an MVP level when he plays at his peak. That's not a hot take. Jordan Love, when he's on, is one of the most talented quarterbacks in the league. His problem is just the consistency, but I think now that they've put enough around him where you will get more consistent Jordan Love. He's going into, his year 3 starting now, I believe. This is his 3rd year as the starter in Green Bay. Josh Jacobs, the ultimate workhorse running back, still in the prime of his career. The defense shored up by Micah Parsons and a really good underrated head coach in Matt LaFleur, who I think is a top 10 head coach in the NFL. There's just really not a lot of holes with the Green Bay Packers. I think they have a lot to like, and they're the most consistent overall roster, I think, in this division right now. Moving on to the NFC East. This one we're not going to spend a whole lot of time on. It's the Philadelphia Eagles. This is the reigning Super Bowl champions. I think you can argue if they're not the best roster in the NFL, then they're the second. It's either them or the Ravens, I think. You can argue on paper who has the best roster. They're the reigning Super Bowl champions. They brought basically all their key core guys back. They lost a couple of guys, like Milton Williams went to the Patriots. Bryce Huff went to the Cardinals. But overall, all your core guys, Jalen Hurts, Saquon Barkley, A.J. Brown, all the offensive linemen, Jalen Carter, your 2 rookie corners, this team is just absolutely stacked. The only real argument you can make against the Eagles, maybe regressing a little bit, is the fact that they did lose Kellen Moore, their offensive coordinator. And last time the Eagles lost their offensive coordinator, it was kind of a disaster for the team. When they lost Shane Steichen, they got off to a great start, but then they completely collapsed as the league kind of figured their offense out, and they lost their last 6 games. They got torched by the Bucs in that wild card game. So we'll have to see what this new offensive coordinator looks like. But ultimately, I don't think it matters just because of how stacked this team is. I think you or me could honestly be the offensive coordinator. There's a big difference between having Miles Sanders as your running back and fucking Saquon Barkley off a 2,000-yard campaign. And I wouldn't really be surprised if Saquon Barkley becomes the first running back ever to have back-to-back 2,000-yard seasons because that O-line is so elite. and because this is such a run-heavy oriented team. It's a stacked football team. Everywhere you look, playmakers, every unit, there's no holes on this team. It's not a hot take that they're going to win this division. I like other teams in this division, most notably Washington, but Philly is the cream of the crop of the National Football League for a reason. Moving on to the NFC South, I have the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. For me, this one isn't really that close. I know there's people out there flirting with the Falcons, people picking the Falcons. I cannot pick the Falcons until they show me that they deserve to be on a list like this, because last year I did pick the Atlanta Falcons to win this division, and they kind of self-imploded with Kirk Cousins like halfway through the year just forgetting how to play football. I don't think Raheem Morris handled that situation well, letting Kirk go on way too long as the starter. I do like Michael Penix Jr. Yeah, I've been a big fan of him. I'm one of those people that said he should have won the Heisman over Jaden Daniels because he was, I think, the better overall player that year. So I am a Michael Penix believer for sure. I just don't trust the Falcons from an organizational standpoint. It's just a little rocky. Like the whole Kirk Cousins thing is just stinky, and I've been talking about that ever since they made the decision to bring in Kirk and Michael Penix in the same offseason. It's just a weird situation, and it kind of shows that the people running this team are kind of clueless. They don't really have a direction with this team. Whereas you look at Tampa Bay, they're one of the most stable structures in the entire NFL right now. I mean, they are just absolutely one of the most well-ran organizations in football right now, and they have an incredible roster. Now, I do have some question marks with the defense. The defense is a little thin, particularly their secondary, but I think the offense is so loaded right now. You have a good offensive line. Baker Mayfield, I think, has clearly established himself as a top 10 quarterback in the NFL, coming off back-to-back massive productive seasons. I believe last year he had 4,500 yards. You still have the receiver depth here, even with the injury to Chris Godwin and the other kid from Washington. I don't know why I'm blanking on his name right now. Jordan, I don't know. You guys, like I said, not feeling 100% right now. You guys let me know in the comments. Jordan McMillan, isn't that his name? He's hurt too, but I think Emeka Egbuka is going to have a monster season. Like all reports about this guy in the camp is he has been like their standout in training camp, which I know you got to kind of take everything from training camp with a grain of salt, but this guy was an absolute freak at Ohio State and was just kind of overshadowed by Marvin Harrison Jr. Now that he is in the pros, I think he's really going to show out. And he could honestly, I wouldn't be surprised if Emeka Egbuka ended up being the leading receiver for the Bucs this year. With Mike Evans getting up there in age and all that, you look back to 2023 with this roster, they had the worst rushing attack in the entire NFL. Then they hit on superstar running back Bucky Irving from Oregon, and he's poised, I think, to have a monster year. I think Bucky Irving and Rachaad White are it is one of the best running back tandems in the NFL right now because they're so complimentary. Bucky Irving can be your bell cow workhorse type running back. He's such a good natural runner of the football. And then alongside Rachaad White, who might not be the best, pure rusher out there, but he's one of the best pass-catching running backs in the NFL. He's elite at that. So I think this offense is just so high-powered right now with Baker playing the best football of his career. He's got weapons. He's got a line. He's got two capable running backs and a pretty soft division. The Saints and the Panthers, I don't really view them as any real threat. And if you listen to my video a couple of weeks ago, I said I think the Saints could easily be the worst team in the NFL. I don't even think that's a controversial take. I think the Saints are going to be dog shit. Carolina, they just have way too many holes on their team. And like I said, with Atlanta, they got to show me before I can really believe in them. So moving on now to the NFC West. This division feels kind of wide open right now just because there's a lot of question marks with all these teams. With Seattle, you have a new quarterback. With the Niners, they had a disastrous season last year and a ton of injuries. The Rams, their quarterback has a potential back problem, which scares the shit out of me. And the Cardinals, we all know the story with Kyler. Incredibly talented, but super inconsistent. So there's not really one team to me that really stands out big in this division. I kind of view them all as in the same category, But I'm going to go with the 49ers for one simple reason, and I could end up being incredibly wrong about this, but all reports indicate that Christian McCaffrey is fully healthy, and there's a good chance he could be back to the Christian McCaffrey we've come to expect. If McCaffrey is back at that level, the Niners are going to win this division because you guys, if you know the Niners, the way that Shanahan runs his offense, Christian McCaffrey is essentially the quarterback of this offense in terms of from a value standpoint, from what he provides to this team. If he's at full health, Christian McCaffrey is the 49ers offense. It all stems from Christian McCaffrey. So if that guy is back and fully healthy, that's Shanahan's guy. I mean, he's shown in the past that he will run the shit out of Christian McCaffrey. You know, all of the offense is predicated on that guy. The play action, everything, the bubble screens. So if McCaffrey's back, I'm taking the Niners to win this division, but I'm going to put the asterisk. If McCaffrey gets banged up again, or if he's just simply not the same player that he once was, then I'm probably going to go with the Rams in this division. It all stems on McCaffrey. And you also got to keep in mind, like, this team had a ton of injuries last year. Like, they were probably the most unlucky team last year when it came to injuries. Like, Ayuk, I think, week 3 or week 4, very early in the season, got a season-ending injury. Deebo Samuel was banged up. He wasn't the same. Trent Williams got hurt. They had a lot of defensive injuries as well. So as long as they're not bit as bad by the injury bug, I think the Niners do have a strong chance of coming back. I don't think they're going to be, anywhere near as dominant as they were in 2023 when they made it to the Super Bowl, but it's still a good team with good players. The Brock Purdy thing is still kind of weird for me, the fact that they paid him that much money. I mean, not to go on a tangent about Brock Purdy, but you just look at how Shanahan runs his system with quarterbacks. Like Jimmy G ran this exact system. A lot of people thought, hey, Jimmy G's pretty good in the Shanahan system. Then he goes to another team in the Raiders, and I think after 2 or 3 games was completely exposed as a fraud and was benched by the Raiders. Then they literally go out there and get the last pick in the draft, Brock Purdy, and throw him into this situation. Hey, Brock Purdy's pretty good. It's like, maybe it's just the system is really good. Like, to me, it's crazy that they paid Brock Purdy the amount of money that they did. Because I really feel like you could have taken most backups out there, and this is really not to hate on Brock Purdy. He's not a bad player. It's just the amount of money that he's being paid, I think, is simply grotesque. Because, everybody has said with the Niners and Brock Purdy, everybody said it's the weapons, it's the system. What would Brock Purdy be without his weapons and, all this talent around him? Well, we kind of saw it last year with all the injuries. He wasn't that good. They won 6 games. So I know I'm picking the Niners, but like I said, it all kind of stems from McCaffrey. It all stems from, is McCaffrey playing? That's why, to me, it's insane that this organization, knowing how Shanahan runs this offense, paid Brock Purdy so much money. I'm getting into a side tangent, though. We can move on to the wild card teams. My first wild card team is the Washington Commanders. Now, I do have a little bit of fear for this team because you look at their schedule last year, like it was a really, really easy schedule. You go look at the quarterbacks that they played against. It was a layup. Like, I don't have the list right in front of me, but you can easily go look it up. Like, their schedule was very easy. They did not play a lot of, elite quarterbacks. That's not going to be the same this year. They have a tougher schedule, but putting that aside, I'm such a believer in Jaden Daniels. I think he is a transcendent player, just seeing what he did last year. And I like the offseason moves that the Commanders made. I think going out there and getting Laramie Tunsil, who's one of the best left tackles in football, for basically a sack of peanuts, that was an A-plus move right there. They brought in Deebo Samuel in a very low-risk move because they didn't really – I think they gave up, a 5th or 6th round pick for Deebo Samuel. So even if he doesn't work out, like, who cares? So that's like a bet that I like there because it's you're not giving up anything to bring in this guy who could be a contributor to this team. They finally brought in Terry McLaurin. They finally gave him a contract. People were saying eventually, after the Commanders eventually did pay Terry, people were starting to say, oh, maybe you did kind of overpay him with $32 million a year for a 30-year-old receiver. I think it's bullshit. I think Terry McLaurin earned every penny of that contract, and I think Terry McLaurin is such a vital piece to this offense. It's fucking insane to me that they let that whole contract thing drag out as long as it did, because now Terry's going to probably get off to a slower start. He wasn't with the team the whole offseason. Like, you had him all this time. You gave him all these shitty quarterbacks. He's been through all the bullshit with this organization, and it's still, no matter what, he's produced for this team. He's been the one beacon of light on this team. Now, you finally get him a quarterback, and then you're going to fucking pinch pennies when it's time to pay him. I think it's bullshit, but at least they finally did the right thing and paid him. I just think it looks silly as an outsider to wait that long to pay him. I'm glad they did. I believe in the quarterback. I think they've put really good pieces around him. They have competent people running the team from a coaching standpoint. Defense might be a little questionable, but Dan Quinn has shown in the past that he's able to kind of cover up for the lack of personnel with his defensive scheme. So I got Washington as a wild card team. Next wild card team I have is the Detroit Lions. I don't see them winning their division because I am actually really scared of the departure of Ben Johnson. I think that is going to be a big deal. That's going to be a big storyline for the NFL this year, is how does the Ben Johnson departure affect the Detroit Lions? Because this is a team over the past 2 years that has been one of the best teams in the NFL. 2023, they went to the NFC Championship game, and then last year, they won 15 games and really only fell apart due to a severe amount of injuries. And I guess looking at it now, like I just said a couple minutes ago that the Niners had the worst injury bug. I guess I'm wrong, because I think Detroit actually had the worst injury bug last year. And yet, despite that, they still got the 15 wins. So now that they lose Ben Johnson, who's viewed as this offensive mastermind, he goes to the Bears. How is the Lions' offense going to look post-Ben Johnson? I think that is a big deal. I don't think they're going to be as buttoned up. The scheme isn't going to be as good. That worries me. It really does. Because if you go back to, I know the team didn't have the same players. It was nowhere near as talented a team. But when Dan Campbell initially took over the Lions, he was calling plays, and the offense was a joke. It worries me a little. This is a big deal for Dan Campbell because we've always talked about, he's a great motivational guy, great culture setter. But in terms of X's and O's, we just weren't really sure because he had such good coordinators. Now that Ben Johnson's gone, this is the year for Dan Campbell where he's going to really show how good of a coach he is. So I say this, you might think I'm negative on the Lions, but I have them still as a playoff team just because their roster is so good. They have such a fantastic roster. I think that despite losing Ben Johnson, they just have so much talent that it's kind of overwhelming. They are just loaded at every position. They kind of remind me of the Niners a couple years ago where they were just stacked at each unit on a football team. So I am worried about how the offense is going to look, but they have way too much talent to fail, in my opinion. I think they're just too good. They have too many good playmakers. Moving on to my final wild card team, I have the Los Angeles Rams. Another team that I view as very complete. They've done a great job of, excuse me. They've done a great job of really rebuilding their defense, particularly their defensive line. When it looked like a couple years ago when Aaron Donald retired, it was like, well, what are they going to do now? And it's like in an off season, they rebuilt their offensive line by getting 2 studs from Florida State, Jared Verse and Braden Fisk, to go alongside Kobe Turner. Like, they lost Aaron Donald, 2 years ago, and now they have one of the best defensive lines in football still. So they've done a great job at that, building up that defense with young gems. And then, of course, the offense, we all know how loaded the offense is. In my opinion, this is the second best head coach in football, Sean McVay, behind Andy Reid. Offensive mastermind and all-time talent at the head coaching position to go with great positional players on the offense. Stafford, when he's upright, is elite. I've even heard some people argue Stafford, when healthy, is a top 5 quarterback in the league. I can't really dispute that. When we know Stafford is on, he is a fucking monster. And you have the weapons around him. You've rebuilt this O-line. It's a respectable offensive line. And you put around him Puka Nacua, when he's healthy, easily a top 10 receiver. And Devontae Adams in this McVay system, Oh my God, I think Devontae Adams, and he's not even going to get like a majority of the coverage. They're going to be more focused on Puka. Devontae Adams could go fucking off this year. Like, I could easily see Devontae Adams going for well over 1,000 yards. I could see him more in like the 1,400 yard range just because of, I still view him as a high-end guy. And you look at like the lack of good quarterback play he had last year and still finished with really good numbers. That's a huge get for me. I think Devontae Adams is going to crush with the Rams as long as Stafford is healthy. You got, Kyron Williams. They just gave him an extension. He's a fucking touchdown machine. There's just a lot to like with the Rams. However, you might ask, well, you're talking so positively about the Rams, then why are they in your 7th seed? Why are they in your, final wild card slot? Well, like I said earlier in the video, the Stafford back thing really, really scares me. Really scares me. Like, that's just something you do not want to hear for your star quarterback, is that his back is fucked up, and that there were points where he even considered retirement because of the pain he's felt in his back. That worries the fuck out of me, because he gets hit the wrong way and he lands on his back the wrong way, he could be out for the year. And then you're down to Jimmy Garoppolo, which I think McVay could have some success with Garoppolo, but it really, really shrinks the ceiling of this team. So that's something we're really going to have to monitor as the year goes on, is the health of Stafford's back. But as long as he plays, this is a playoff team. So that has been it for my NFC playoff predictions. Definitely let me know your predictions down in the comments. Are there any teams that I left out that you think should be in? If you made it this far in the video, appreciate you listening. Please like and subscribe.